Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse, and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. Today we've got a very special episode. We're going to be looking at doing a beginner's guide to Moonbreaker. So this is for someone who's brand new to the game. There's a couple of things you might have done already. If not, I'm going to suggest them to you, and we're going to let you know the best way to get stuck into the game. So this is more about how things work, how to get into it, where to find things, and playing our first sort of versus AI game as well. And then I'm going to have a series of videos following up from this on a first list for each of the three captains, how to play them out, how to build a list and that sort of thing. So that's going to be coming up after this at some point as well. So the first thing I wanted to say is that welcome to the game. It's a fantastic game. I've had so much fun playing it. I've literally started this YouTube channel because I've enjoyed playing it so much, and I just wanted to share that with more people and spread it out as much as I can. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you log into the game is about here will be a series of little missions to complete and hopefully a big button still for the tutorial. So I recommend going through all of these things. They're really, really useful, especially the tutorial itself, and that will teach you some of the basics of the game. Now, once you've done that, it doesn't teach you everything you need to know about the game. It teaches you most of it, and there's a few other things as well that you might want to find out, and you can find that out from the tutorial videos. So that's in this little book here at the top right. So if you click on this, this looks somewhat intimidating. If you click on the first video and you sort of see the length it's going to be, you think that might be quite a lot of watching to do, but actually all of this video is actually all of these things included in one. So it's not as intimidating as you might think. It's only a few minutes and it will give you a lot of information about the game. I didn't watch this when I started, and it wasn't until I came back and looked at it that I actually learned quite a few things that I wish I'd known in the first place. So there's also one here on painting, but we can have a look at that in a moment anyway. So that's the tutorial, and that will be giving you an idea of some of the basic concepts of the game, like what is Cinder, or how do characters move, how do you attack, how to use abilities, and that sort of thing. So it's absolutely, a great thing to do to get started. And once you've done that, you might be thinking, what do I do next? How do I get things, and we're going to be having a look at that right now. One of the first things you want to do is you'll be getting the free captains. So it used to be that you have to collect these captains. Now they should just appear in your collection. You'll have access to all of the captains and all the characters. So you shouldn't need to go looking for them or anything like that. You should have access to them all from the beginning. So that's a nice change from what it was originally. So everything should already be in your collection. So this should look exactly the same as yours. Okay, so other than that, there is a currency in the game and it's called Sparks. There were previously more, it's now just down to Sparks, and that will be what you're getting as rewards from your tutorials. So the way to see your Sparks is in your collection, you just click on a unit that you want, so we should pick the Sentinel here, and it's just shown up here. And what that does is, using this little tool button here, you can upgrade the rarity of your unit, and all it does at the moment is upgrade the entrance and death animations for your characters, and even then it's not to a huge degree. So I'm not going to be upgrading any of my rarities for the moment until there's going to be more changes to what you get from upgrading them. And I'd probably recommend you do the same, but if you really like seeing these different animations like this, then you can upgrade them yourself. So these little buttons here just show you what the animations look like. So that's something to bear in mind, and something that's it's entirely a cosmetic choice. You just do what's right for you. So when it comes to things that you can get in the game and things you can unlock, obviously that unlocks the different animations, but we've also got the season track. So the thing to bear in mind with the season track is that this isn't a battle pass. It's not, it's not purchasable. This is included in the game for every single person who plays it. And I can't recommend enough that, you just realize that it's not any extra cost to you. You get all of these things for free as the base part of the game. Now, looking along here, there's a lot of different things you can get, and that starts from things like profile images. This is the top of a banner, so every time you make a new list, you have a banner, and this can be your little frame for the banner, the crest. You've got in-game currency, decals that you can just stick on your units to make a little bit, basically like a sticker to make things look a little bit nicer on your unit. And most importantly, paints. People love these metallic paints. They are beautiful. So there's a lot of things to unlock on here. We've got skins as well that you can unlock, or paint schemes rather. So this is just an alternate paint scheme for the characters you own. There's different images for your banners, more paints, and there's loads of different options. So like this is another entrance animation, and you can see here the difference between the different rarities. So obviously common, not that much there, legendary, a little bit more dramatic. So loads of things to unlock through this. It is quite exciting, and then the further on you get to things like this, which is another palette of metallic paints, which again is beautiful. I love that blue, it's really, really nice on the models. And lastly, we've got glowing paints, which are absolutely like neon rave level colors. They're so bright, they look awesome. You can use them sparingly and have nice little highlights, or you can go all out and just absolutely cover your units and look like, a bright mess. All up to you. I've done both. And then the last thing you unlock here is a skin. So this is the Deathbot Extilior skin. So Extilior is one of the 3 captains, and right here you get an alternate model. So not only do you get an alternate model, but you can actually paint these models as well. So unlocking skins is amazing because it gives you double value. Not only do you get the model, you get a new version of it as well. Speaking of painting, that's one of the more important things you can do in the game, is that it's entirely optional, it's just cosmetic, but you can go in here, and to what I've left is, this here is actually a paint scheme that I've made myself, the Aegis Defense Dome. So it normally looks the same as the Sentinel, but I've changed it slightly, so it's the same colour scheme as this regularly, and I've changed it to this. So it's a really interesting mechanic, there's lots of different things you can do with it. So one of the things that I've done recently is enter one of the painting competitions, which was a paint that I've done for Savria that you'll be able to see in other videos. But to give an example, Torian Guardian here was the first paint job I ever really tried on, and I've gone from this across to this. So as you saw there, I just click the paint bottom in the bottom right, and then these arrow keys let me select which of the paint schemes I want to use. And then you've got a new scheme here and a duplicate scheme here. So you can copy one you've already got, make changes to it, make a different version so you don't put your original one at risk, or you can start again from scratch. And then we've got this tool here. So I'm not going to go all into the painting. There's a lot of other people who do this a lot better than I will, but it's just fun to be able to pick something, paint your entire model, and just have a bit of fun with it. And the only other thing I'm going to point out for now is you can hold the shift key to just stick to one part of the model. So it means you can do a lot of tips and a lot of tricks and things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in a real life model, and even without much effort you can make it look a lot nicer than you might think you can. So again, this is a bit too much on the green front especially, but if we just add a couple of bits here, and that's only using the basic brush, we've changed the colour completely. And it's not something I'm going to be playing in anything there, but you can see how quickly we've actually segmented the different panels, done the different colours. It's a really, really nice tool. I recommend just playing around and using it and seeing what you can do. And you've got all these different options for types of paint as well. So absolutely have a go at that, get involved, and you can really just sort of try out some of the fun things that are available there as well. One of the things to bear in mind is the skins. So we saw earlier that we unlocked our Extilior skin, but how do you use it? So whatever you've selected last in terms of paint scheme will be whatever turns up onto your paint scheme when you play a game. And to use a skin, you just do exactly the same thing. And all you do is you get 2 sections of options here rather than 1. So we've got Extilior's default scheme, which is just loading in. Or if we click this top one here, it goes to Deathbot Extilior. So these are just taking a moment to load. This is more likely my computer than it is the game. But then we can come out of this, and we now have this model instead. So easy enough to change between skins, and also it works the same for paint jobs. So things like crankbait, one of the things on the season track, you will unlock a new skin for crankbait. So got the default skin, but the Gloomside one here is just a bit of a different colour. Again, I'm not sure why these are not showing up there, but again, it comes out, you can see the difference between the two. So it's an excellent system. The painting is really, really worth it. If you're interested in painting the slightest, I'd absolutely jump into it. Now, not everyone's going to be interested in painting. Some people are going to be interested in the lore. And the lore in this is mostly delivered, so partly by, in all these you've got a little lore section, which is just a quick little conversation between different characters, or a little poem, or a little story. These are your cute little things here. We've got gameplay showing their abilities, and then stats will coming at a later point. But the main way the lore is being delivered is by following this button here and going to the audio dramas. Now these are voice acted audio dramas, and the intention with these is that you can just play them and listen while you paint. So these are around half an hour long each. We've got 2 so far, one for Extilior and one for Zaxjakar, so that's 2 different captains. And we get to listen in and hear a little bit of their story and how things came to be the way they are in the Reaches, which is where we are playing this game. So again, it's an excellent sort of means of delivering it. They've looked at sort of implementing story mode, but one of the things that was discussed is that after literally years of looking into it, either it felt like the story was taking away from the gameplay, or the gameplay was taking away from the story, and they wanted to be able to deliver big chunks of exposition, so you get, that real actual story feel rather than just a sort of a chunk of broken up conversation between a series of events. And frankly, I haven't seen anyone complain about it yet. I think it seems really good. I've really enjoyed them, and hopefully you will too. So the next thing to look at before we get into anything is the player icon and player level. So you can see here my player level, and this is basically just increased by playing different units and getting good use out of them. So the more you play a unit, the more experience you get, and as your units level up, your player level does too. And every time you get a unit to level 3, you unlock their image as a profile picture. So I've currently got Torian Guardian, who's one of my favourites, but recently I've been playing a lot of Beatrice. So I've got all of these, I play a lot of these characters, but Beatrice has been probably in most of my lists for a while. So we're going to put Beatrice on. That's our new profile picture. It's just another little bit of customization, standard across many games, but why not make the use of it as you can? And as you level up as well, you get some sparks that you can upgrade the rarities as well. So the next thing we need to look at is how to get started. So once you've completed all the objectives that will pop up here, you can choose what you want to do from here. And the main options are either going to be playing versus AI, playing cargo runs, which is sort of a roguelike mode, playing versus a player, or going ahead and painting some models. So what we're going to look at is playing. The cargo run mode gives you 3 pre-built lists, and what you do is you go into a game mode where you pick up crates just by moving into base contact with them, and they give you buffs or characters or effects on the game that continue throughout your whole run, and you come against 5 different bosses of increasing difficulty, and at the end of it you just get experience rewards, and those are one of the quickest ways to go up the season track, so you can get all those paints, those decals, those different paint schemes, that sort of thing. That's a really good way of running through it. Frankly, I find it a lot of fun. There's 10 different bosses, and some of them are absolutely brutal, and some of them are perfectly fine. It's a really nice variety. The Zaxjakar list is my favourite, but they are all quite entertaining. What we're going to look at first is we're going to go versus AI. You can see all of the lists here. And one of the things before we do this is we need to look at how you would make a list. We will be covering this in another video, but you just click on the rosters tab here, click new roster, and then you just click on these, select your captain, and then select your crew as well. You've also got the option of editing your banner here, so you can either do it randomly, or you can pick your crest, pick the shape of your banner, and pick the pattern as well, and then you've got the colour palettes here to edit it. So that's absolutely something that a lot of people will be doing, but for now, we're going to play an AI game with the Extilior nuts and bolts list, which is the default one that everyone gets. It will always be in your rosters, so we can just have a look at this and see what we're going to do. So here are all the models that we're going to be using. They each do something different, but we're going to be having a look and seeing how this works out in a versus AI game. So the reason I've gone versus AI, in PvP, there is a timer. So you do have a certain amount of time for your turns. Sometimes it can feel a little bit pressing when you're first getting used to it, so I'd recommend AI to start with, but it's not a big deal. You have to make decisions quickly. It's supposed to be an entertaining game, so we don't want people to be just sat there and feeling like you can't spend your time there. So this is one of the first things that you might not have seen too much about, is ship assists. So there are 10 different ship assists in total. They do a variety of different things. One of them is currently disabled but will be coming back as well. And you get to pick between 3 pairs of 2 abilities. So we either get Stim Burst and Corrosive Particles, Nano Shield and Orbital Strike, or Plink and Escape Hatch. So essentially one of the things you want to do here is pick what's good for your list, not just your favourite things. Because some of my favourite things, I really enjoy Escape Hatch, but I don't know if that's going to be good this game. With Extilior, I'm a melee character. I want to be getting into range of things. Stim Burst means I can move 50% further, and I think that's going to probably be one I'm going to take here as well. And then Corrosive Particles is like an AoE that deals 1 additional damage to every time one of those models takes damage. Here we've got Charge Nano Shield, so this gives someone invulnerable, and they can't take damage. There's an equivalent that stuns an enemy as well. And then Orbital Strike, which is a delayed action AoE effect. So most of the time Orbital Strike won't deal damage. Just bear that in mind when you use it. Most people will just move out of range of Orbital Strike, but it is still really good for making them come to you. But yeah, don't expect that to be a big sort of damage boost at the end of your turn. And then we've got Plink and Escape Hatch. So choose a unit whose health has changed this turn, so that means either gone up or down, it doesn't matter either way. Restore 1 health to it if it's friendly, if it's an enemy, deal 1 damage. This is sort of a recently reworked version. I quite like how it works, but it does mean that you have to be trading, you have to be dealing damage for it to be useful. An Escape Hatch, randomly deploy the most expensive unit in your bridge and deal 2 damage to it. So this can be quite good, but it's not something that we're going to be looking for here because we're just wanting to get an idea of how the game works in general. So we're going to choose Stim Burst and Corrosive Particles. So the first thing that happens is we come into one of the player's turns, and you need to learn how to move the camera. So it's just move it to the edge. You can also hold the middle mouse button to drag it. You can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, like you might expect. And more recently, so this has always been in the game, but they've now changed it so that you can use the Q, so you can use WASD to move, but you can also use Q and E to rotate the camera and get those different angles. It doesn't go all the way around, I believe it's something like 60 degrees, but it just means you can get angles of people's cool paint jobs as well. And speaking of paint jobs, if you want to, you can hold the control key and you get to pick up someone's model and just have a little look at it. So really, really nice features. Lets you appreciate everything that the opponents are doing as well as yourself. So make sure you make use of that. Now what we can do is we've got a few options here. When you click on your captain, we've got Move, Melee, Shield of Hope, Sword of Justice, and Rally. So this might look like a lot of things, but what this is everything written on this card here. It just shows you what his abilities are. So Move, Melee, Shield of Hope, and Sword of Justice have all got keyboard shortcuts Z, X, C, V. So you can just press those, or you can just left click the button. And what we can do is click Move and choose where we want to go. Now this line here shows us what line of sight there is between us and our opponent. So because there is a line and we don't have a ranged weapon, this just means that we know that they can see us. So that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to right click to cancel that. We don't want to be seen shot straight away. Melee, we just need to be in base contact and we can hit someone. Shield of Hope is a one-time reduced damage to our unit, and Sword of Justice is the AoE that we used in the tutorial. Now on the bridge, you click here and you get access to your entire list. So in the tutorial video, you have to reinforce and to draw extra cards basically, or draw extra units. That mechanic is gone. It hasn't been updated yet in the tutorial because it's a very, very new change. So you now get access to your entire roster of 8 units every turn, and you just pick what you want to play. And then any cinder you don't spend up to a maximum of 3 is saved for the next turn. And it increases each turn how much you get, and you can see here these little icons demonstrate that. So what we're going to do here is you can just click move and move around, but you can also just right click, and if you hold that, that lets you see the same lines as before. So we're going to move to here because we want to be as hidden as possible, make them have to come out to see us. And then when you click our character that we want to deploy, which is going to be Maximus, you can see the radius around us where we can deploy it. So we can place this anywhere here whatsoever. We're just going to place it up in this corner so we can get aggressively towards our opponent without them needing to being able to hit us back because we're hid behind the hard cover. Hard cover just blocks line of sight completely. Soft cover makes it harder to hit, but they can still hit you. And then end of the turn, it will glow up when you've got no more actions to take whatsoever. But just click it when you're done, and that's all you need from there. So this is Zach's Jakar, he's our opponent, and all they've done is move up a little bit because we didn't leave them with a good option of shooting us. So in this turn, we've got the option of playing Detonia, but because Detonia's ability takes 2 damage, and this icon means she doesn't have an attack of her own, we're probably not going to be using her for a while, so I actually think we're going to save that Cinder until next turn. What we are going to do is click Stim Burst. Make sure we can see that it's hovering over both our models. You'll get this little targeting thing around it anytime that a model is going to be hit by this ability, and it can even get it just on the edge. So if you see there, Maximus is still being hit by it, and we're going to give everyone a lot more movement, and we're just going to run straight at Zak's Jakar. This may not be a good idea in a PvP game, but because we're against AI and we're a melee unit, we need to close that gap as quick as possible. So again, we're going to use our right click here to move all the way up. And then what Maximus does is when he hits someone and damages them, he then gets to move again. So we're going to move as close as possible. The reason we're doing that is because you can see here, all of these little percentages that are showing up are the minuses to hit that we take for shooting through different types of cover when trying to hit their Zaks. Now this also happens through our models. So you can see here we've got 2 lots of minus. So if we go here, we're never going to be able to hit their Zaks. It's too low a chance to even try. So what we want to do, still holding the right mouse button, is move over here. And we're going to just use either the X key, or we can actually just right mouse button on here as well. And you can see now we've got a 99% chance to hit because we're that close. The closer you are, the better your hit chance with ranged models. And we've also got a 10% crit chance to deal extra damage. So crit can be sort of 1 or 2 extra damage based on your base damage. So it can only ever be a maximum of 2. That was another recent change. So if we crit, we'll deal 2 damage here. So we're going to let the right mouse button go, get that attack in. We did get a crit and a regular attack. And because we're trying to stay safe, we're actually going to hide all the way back here, back over that same piece of terrain. Now here the end turn button isn't glowing because we don't need to use it. We're going to save the cinder for next turn, and that means that we've got 2 here, and it shows us next turn we're going to have 5. So we can look at playing one of our bigger models next turn. So we're going to end the turn here and see what the opponent does from there. So their Zax is going to be running straight towards us. He's got an ability that when he hits us, he actually knocks us back slightly, and he can also place mines. So here's one of his mines. And this shows us one of the important things in Moonbreaker is blocking people's movement. So if you look here, our Zax can't actually move past this mine. So we could shoot it, we could try and kill it. At the moment it's not armed, it takes 1 turn for it to become active to deal damage. But to be completely honest, I think we're just going to run the other way down here. So the next thing to bear in mind is when we've said you can use the right mouse button to move, if you move over here and it comes up like this, that actually means you're going to move and attack in one movement, so don't do that unless you want to be doing that. And it doesn't always do it from every angle, it's only from specific angles. So what I would be doing is I'm going to be pressing the Z key because I don't want to attack quite yet, and just making sure I left click here rather than using the right click to do that automatically. Now what we can also do here is play Corrosive Particles. So this is our one that means we get an extra damage on every one of our attacks. So we can just try and squeeze it over both of these, but it doesn't matter too much, seeing as we're only going to be hitting Zax here anyway. So that gives him a little particle effect. We can see, so you can't see it when you zoom in, but you can hover over him, and on the left-hand side it says Corrosive Particles. So now we move over. Make sure we're not shooting through Exterior, which is why we move to the right rather than the left, so that Maximus can still come here and get line of sight. We're going to take our 2 shots at 88%, and these will each do 2 damage, and if we crit it will do 3. So you get the 2 and another 2. And what we're going to do now is, because we're in an aggressive position, we're just going to move behind here. The reason we're not going to move any closer is because we're about to use Sword of Justice. One thing that's different to this and quite a lot of other games, it's 3 damage to all units in range. Every AoE effect in the game so far hits all units. It doesn't just hit theirs, you can damage yours as well. So be really careful where you position things, or you're going to spin, you're going to hurt your own units, you're going to AoE a unit, and it's not going to go very well for you. Now, we're thinking about playing one of our big units of Furia, which is 5 Cinder. But these abilities take Cinder as well, so once we've used this, it will deal 4 damage instead of 3. We can still hit here as well, and deal another 3, so they're down to 6. But we've now spent some of our Cinder on that. So it's the same resource for both. It does tell you this in the tutorial, but it's very easy to forget. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play Aria, which is a ranged unit, And what we're going to do is we're going to place her directly this side of Zach's. So we want him to only be able to move to the right. And the reason for this is we can probably move things into a position where we can see. And as you can see here, he can't really move anywhere that he can hide from us. So those are some of the first sort of things to know here. In terms of a more fun side of things, there's also emotes. So if you click on your portrait, you've got all of these going on here. They're not necessarily the most apt to what you're trying to say. So yes is, it is so. Greetings is, death has arrived. Sounds a bit more like a threat than anything else to me. So that's another thing to bear in mind. They're just fun little voice lines, little barks that you can put in there. And then what we're going to look at as well is just considering the order of actions. So we can hover over this and we can see obviously we can't hit it. Maximus, we could shoot here at 89%. And then Arya can shoot here as well, but we could also give her additional accuracy. So there's a lot of moving parts. You need to make sure you do things in the right order. And it's a really useful way of, finding out what you want to do. Is just a bit of trial and error. So one of the other things to bear in mind is that there are actually more keyboard shortcuts than you can currently see on the screen. The first of which is the Tab key. Tab cycles between all of your units that still have activations left. And if you look underneath each unit, green means it can move, red means it can attack, and the yellowy orange means it can still use this ability. And with the captain, they have 2. So the Tab key, if you've got a really busy board state, you've got a lot going on, you're running out of time on your turn in the PvP game, and you're trying to figure out what you've got left to do, this is an easy way to see it. And then other than that, we've also got to end the turn, the Enter key does end the turn. So we're not going to be doing that now because we've got a Zakshakar to kill. So one thing to bear in mind here is it's not going to be relevant in this game as much, but if they had a melee unit out and we attacked it with a melee unit, they also attack back. Now the other thing is they also attack back versus ranged units if you're in melee range of them. So you can't just put a ranged unit next to a melee unit and attack them without getting hit back. So there is a cost to getting that close, and it is one that you'll probably end up paying more times than you realise. So we're going to use our right mouse key to move here, our mouse button or other. And because there's nothing glowing saying we're going to attack, we're not going to automatically attack. This little indicator here shows we're in base contact with everything. And we're going to do a spin to deal 3 damage to everything in the area. But just to point out that if we were nearby, we would have taken damage as well. Now they've got 3 life left. So we can try and shoot from here, but it's only 85%. But if we move all the way up to here, we then have a 100% chance to hit. So it does matter where you are. We'll do the same with Maximus, and that's going to be the end of this game. There we go. So that's just your first walkthrough of how some of the in-game mechanics work. Hopefully that will help you sort of figure out where you want to go from there. And the most important thing is to have fun. I've really enjoyed this game. I've got loads of love for it. The Discord's been fantastic. I'm going to be playing a lot more of it. Here we can see the experience screen as you level up your characters and you get more icons and that sort of thing. I want people to enjoy this as much as I do. So if you've got any questions whatsoever, feel free to post them. We're going to be following up with 3 videos, one for each of the 3 captains, where we've created a beginner-friendly list for each one, and we'll go into the basics of how to build a list, how to play out your turns, and what you think you should be doing from that point forward. So anything you want to know, drop me a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe. I check every single notification I get relating to YouTube. I love seeing it. It really brightens my mood. And other than that, have a good day.